There are almost no baby pictures. Remembering you, my father once admitted, would have been too painful. I don't begrudge him the feeling. When I was 48 hours old, I had my first surgery. The operation left a gnarled scar branded onto me, the only upside being the various fictions behind it. The shark I bit first, a gunfight in some foreign land, an otherworldly battle in Nargothrond, the next medically necessary intervention, when I was 10 months old. Mostly that gastrointestinal intervention reversed the first gastrointestinal intervention, which was itself a stopgap measure. No permanent cure existed, then or now. At 12 weeks new, I was prescribed eyeglasses that unintentionally overcorrected my vision, leaving me at the intersection of cross-eyed, congenital, and nearsighted. Statute of limitations rules out the lawsuit. When I was a toddler, doctors removed my tertiary thumb, thus severing any chance of a life like Hrithik Roshan's. When I was in kindergarten, my hips hurt so badly I was unable to walk. After a week, the god-awful pain disappeared and nobody knew why. Come my third decade, I was jackknifed and hospitalized. 3 months later, I left a different hospital, minus half of 2 spinal discs. On the very day in 2003 we went to war with Iraq for the umpteenth time, I was admitted to the emergency room. Most people I knew enjoyed their youth, or at least had one. I was born dying. All I understood was deterioration. When I was in middle school, I remember our imam told our congregation, "When we feel sorry for ourselves, we should remember people worse off than us." God made me, I remember concluding in that Massachusetts mosque, so others could be grateful for what they had. "At least you're not Haroon," some parent might remind his child. "That's so true," a chastened young man would concede. His perspective restored, he'd thank God and conquer the world, while I sat in my room. In illness, some turned to God. Considering who I was, and where I came from, you'd think I would have turned to God too. But just as there was only one God, so far as I knew there was only one way to God, which was my parents' Sunni Islam. But that didn't work, though apparently only for me. Just as my chronic infirmities contrasted to general health all around, my personal impiety would have stood out against the uniform righteousness I presumed to exist everywhere around me, had I not been so expert at concealing it. Imagine a product everyone else seems to have successfully put to good use. Day and night you rack your brain. It helps that you're often too sick to do anything but, because the only thing you have that works, or at least works well, is your mind. Why is it Islam comes together for them, you ask? Is there something wrong with me? It couldn't be Islam, which came from a perfect God. Then it was me. And who made me? He didn't want it to work out for me then, because something in me was unworthy. Why would I have been born so broken, except that I was disliked? Obviously, I preferred other existences. The future, Star Trek, or the past, the Silmarillion, but always anywhere but here and anyone but me. Worse, the present was merely prologue. In Islam, death is not the end. Our expiration is our transition from this circumscribed world to a far more elaborate and enduring plane, grander or graver than the life we know now. Whoever thinks the afterlife is a fantasy made up to make us feel better has never contemplated ending up on the wrong side of God. In middle school, because I never got picked for either team in gym, I'd be sidelined with the original marginals. Like Dave. One afternoon this left Dave and me talking all period. Dave was a big kid who'd been held back a grade, which in overripe public school lore had been exaggerated into several years. On the few occasions when Dave was picked to, say, bunt, his jog to first base would be accompanied by cries that his car was being towed. I laughed. Sorry, Dave. But that day a benched Dave and Haroon got around to the subject of my religion, which also distinguishes me from my classmates, inspiring endless fascination, the kind reserved for an exotic zoo animal. "Are you Protestant or Catholic?" Dave asked. It's a separate religion." Blank stare. I went on. "You know how Jews aren't Catholic or Protestant because they're not Christian?" Dave did not know any Jews, so he took a different tack. "What do you like most about Islam?" Like many Americans, he took the S for an undercover Z, believing it was his patriotic duty to call out the deceitful consonant. Incidentally, Dave often seemed deeply concerned with the answer to any number of absurd conundrums. Once he asked me whether I should prefer to die in a plane crash or of snakebite, with a seriousness that suggested this was a choice he would one day have to make.